What's up, YouTube? This is Ultra, and today I want to talk about the Cryax buff and or the revert, and let you know if I think that it should stay. I'm gonna tell you the answer is yes, and I'm going to explain why. Right? So, when the game first came out, this right here, right? It let a bunch of players have long block strings into plus frames into another sequence into a block string into another sequence. So you were pretty much locked down for a while, right? This lingers on the screens for a long time. It does a lot, and it used to do a lot of chip damage. But then they reverted it, and instead of a half a bar, they made it one full bar. And, they reduced the chip and stuff like that, so it wasn't really that good. But now they brought it back to where it costs a half a bar. It still doesn't do quite as much chip damage, and it doesn't do as much damage on hit. So let's talk about why I think this needs to stay. I think this should stay because there is so much broken stuff in this game. It's not like Cryax is the only cameo that can lock you down and continue plus frames, right? Now, Cryax might be one of the characters that does it for, maybe a greater amount of characters he works with, but he is not the only character that can do this. I think a lot of it comes from it's boring, right? When you're seeing like this into this, right? It's boring, right? Down one into that, it can get really boring, and I get that. But just because something is boring does not mean that it shouldn't stay, right? That's like zoning. Let's take a look at zoning. We should have removed zoning because zoning's boring. A lot of people think zoning is one of the most boring things that happens. They get upset with it. Me, I enjoy a good zoner because if you can zone, then it proves that you're good at the game because zoners are at such a disadvantage, especially in Mortal Kombat. So, I honestly believe that this change should stay. I've been saying that the release cameos, most of them need a buff anyways because the new cameos are just so good. They're like power creep in the cameos that released. And I know this brings, Baraka Cryax back, Raiden Cryax back, Rain Cryax back, and it brings a lot of these characters that worked with Cryax. And it brings Cryax back into the mix. How many times have we seen Cryax actually used? I think once or twice in like a pro competition top 8. Most of the time it was the newer cameos. Chameleon, Janet. We've seen some Avado. So I think this change is actually good. And I think it should stay. Now I understand why the community don't like it, right? Because you're going to go into Kombat League, right? And all you're going to see is Cryax now, right? Everyone's going to be like, it's just going to be Cryax now. It's just going to be Cryax over and over and over again. So I 100% understand why people think it's boring and people don't like it. But at the end of the day, he's not the only cameo that can do this. He just functions with a bunch of different characters, and his gameplay is simple. You do a string into his helicopter move, and it gives you plus frames, and then you do a string into helicopter moves, and it gives you more plus frames. I haven't really tested everything to see how plus it is now and what strings it's off of plus. I've just seen it being used a lot. I've heard of the complaints, and I just want to get my thoughts out there saying I honestly think that this change should stay, and they need to buff some of the other cameos that came out with the game. But that is my take on it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you like the change. Let me know if you don't like the change. Let me know what you think of the cameo situation. And I will catch you all in the next video.